Først slettede Facebook den radikale højrefløjsaktivist Tommy Robinsons profil. Så begyndte Facebook at slette opslag, der støttede Tommy Robinson. Og nu er Facebook så begyndt at slette opslag, der bare nævner Tommy Robinsons navn. Han siger selv, at han ikke har gjort noget. Hvor kan jeg som journalist tjekke, at I har dokumentation for jeres anklage mod Tommy Robinson?
Ja, altså der er ikke sådan et opslag, som så er det var. Altså,
og hvor kan jeg som journalist tjekke dokumentationen for jeres anklage?
Jamen det kan du ikke endnu. Altså, og det er ikke fordi, jeg kan sidde her og love, at det kommer du til at kunne på et bestemt tidspunkt. Men,
så hvor kan man gå jer efter i sømmene?
Altså, som sagt, den her konkrete liste er ikke offentlig.
Og det er en liste over dem, der er helt udelukket som Tommy Robinson?
Det er en liste over de personer, hvor vi ud over vores almindelige regler imod hate speech, faktisk heller ikke tillader folk at hylde eller støtte dem.
Kan man se den liste?
Nej, det kan man ikke.
Hvor lang er den?
Jamen, det ved jeg ikke. Jeg har faktisk heller ikke set den selv.
Står Hitler på den? Står Pol Pot på den?
Jeg ved det ikke.
That's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. It confirms all of my worst fears about Facebook and indeed most social media companies in San Francisco, which is they have a secret set of rules for political hygiene. And the most incredible part about this is you can talk about Tommy Robinson on Facebook, but only if you defame him. But that would never happen in Canada, would it? I mean, we're not as rough as Tommy Robinson, and if it were to happen, it would probably happen to a ruffian not like me, not a respected PhD who writes for the leading newspapers of our country like Mark Milke, would it? Well, in fact, it has. And joining me now via Skype from Alberta is our friend Mark Milke to talk about an experience he had with Facebook. Mark, great to see you again.
Ezra, thanks for having me on. Facebook is in an interesting position these days, isn't it?
Yeah, now we had you on not too long ago about your new book called The Victim Cult and how the culture of blame hurts everyone and wrecks civilizations. We went through it, and I really liked your premise. It's that victimology, it undermines groups that embrace it, whether it's Aboriginal bands or Yasser Arafat. And you have case studies, and I think you wrote this with a great sympathy to groups that are downtrodden in some way. It's almost like a prescription of don't do this because you'll be trapped in that negative spiral. It almost felt like a tough talk, tough love, self-help guide for minorities. I think, is that the spirit in which you wrote it?
Well, indeed. And just a warning, right? There have been 113 billion people in the history of this planet, and 7 billion of us are alive now. We're going to knock into each other, even accidentally. Never mind the people among us and in history that seek to do harm. So the question then is, what do you do about it? So yeah, that's a basic premise of the victim cult. Not that you deny that people have been harmed in history or now, but how do you actually constructively combat that if you're a victim or certain groups have been victims? I mean, a friend of mine from the Ottawa Film Society, Free-Thinking Film Society, described the book as very sympathetic, a very sympathetic accounting of minorities and Aboriginals as well. So it's not that I'm denying that harm has occurred in history or now. The key point of the book, though, is you better watch out that you don't just get stuck there. Otherwise, you're going to end up in the position of a lot of people where you end up creating new victims. So, and Barbara Kay in the National Post noticed this. You noticed this. I mean, the book has been excerpted in the New York Post. So along comes Facebook last week after begging me to advertise for weeks upon end. You know, those annoying ads that sometimes pop up in Facebook from Facebook. So I decided to give it a whirl. I put in a couple of ads, including one, by the way, on, are we too tough in Western civilization, with a picture of John A. MacDonald. Well, after an initial couple of small runs of these ads, testing them out on the Toronto market, the Calgary market, other markets, I get these messages from Facebook that the ad has now been banned. And when I appeal, they don't reinstate the ad. What they do is they ban my advertising account. This is Facebook vis-a-vis the victim cult.
We've got an image on the screen right now of your Facebook page that you sent us showing, like, it's just a picture of the thumbnail, a picture of the front of your book, a new book from Mark Milke, The Victim Cult, and it just, know someone who plays the victim, this ad rejected, and I think we have one more image to show as well, if we can put that up on the screen. This is the John A. Macdonald one. It's popular to blame multiple ills today on those long dead, be they John A. Macdonald or Christopher Columbus, and then engage in Taliban-like raising of their statues. And it goes on. This is banned, and I just want to read a little bit, and then I'll throw right back to you, Mark, but let me read the reason why this was banned. It's incredible. This ad can't run because it promotes products, services, schemes, or offers using deceptive or misleading practices, including those meant to scam people out of money or personal information. Example, products that claim to boost Facebook likes. These types of practices don't comply with our advertising policies. You're selling a book. You're not selling, you're not a Nigerian prince asking people for their social insurance numbers. You're selling a book. And I think your book, in fact, I'm pretty sure it became a bestseller on Amazon.ca. They're calling your book, or your ideas, I'm not sure which, a scam.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the guys at Facebook have never read books before, right? I mean, maybe they're just busy tweeting at each other, or in Davos or something. I don't know. I mean, it's incredible to me that, again, this is a book where it took 8 years to get the victim cult done. It's been praised around the country now. It's been reviewed, like I said, in some major newspapers, excerpted in the United States even. I saw an excerpt the other day from Australia on a website. So there's obvious interest in this book. And I'm very careful, again, to point out that people, sometimes end up as being victims. But what are you going to do about that? But for Facebook, I mean, maybe it started with an algorithm, but I have appealed this now 2 times. So there must be a human being somewhere in Silicon Valley or wherever Facebook hires its editors from that must have looked at the site by now, my own website, looked at the victim cult book and the reviews that I sent them, and said, this is hardly, you're right, not only a Nigerian prince, not only am I not a Nigerian prince, promoting some Ponzi scheme or attempt to get your bank account information. I mean, this is on Amazon.com, Amazon.ca. You promoted it. I mean, it went up the charts when we talked in November. So there is obvious interest in the victim cult, and it's not like I'm hiding. My website has all sorts of reviews on it. It's all over. It's in local bookstores across the country. Yeah. So. I mean, they didn't do any due diligence, and I'm still kind of waiting on appeal. As of this morning, I'm looking at the 4 ads that I created at Facebook's request, Facebook business bugging me, and they're still banned as of this morning.
Yeah, we've got those 4 ads on the screen right now. 3 of them have a similar look, and then there's that John A. Macdonald version. Now, I think I know the answer, but I'll ask anyways. You have had no direct contact with any human at Facebook. You've only been filling out automated forms, like a basic appeal form, right?
Yeah, and automated responses, I think, copy and paste, perhaps. If there is a real human being behind them, it's hard to tell. I mean, look, this is how silly this is. My aunt, who lives in another part of the country, relatives like to promote your books and what you do, of course, right? And we all have proud parents, proud aunts, all that kind of stuff. Well, my aunt said when she forwarded one of these excerpts a couple of weeks ago on which these ads are based, she received a warning from Facebook about forwarding this particular promotion. I think it might have been the John A. Macdonald one. So when you have an intelligent conversation about Canada's first Prime Minister, John A. Macdonald, and perhaps that maybe some of the anti-Western civilization folks are overdoing it just a little bit, you get a warning from Facebook, if you're my relative, that you shouldn't promote this dangerous point of view. I mean, look, Facebook is a private company. I guess it can do what it wants. I'm not asking for it to be thumped on by government. What I'm asking for is a business, Facebook, which seeks me out and wants my advertising dollars, not then turn around and waste my time by saying, maybe take a look at this ad again. Maybe this isn't working for us. Maybe it's not working for you, Facebook, but it seems to be working for a lot of people buying it off Amazon and their local bookstores.
Well, when you said it's a private company, that's the sound of the libertarian, the property rights absolutist. And I think I was such a person until even 4 years ago. But after Donald Trump won the 2016 election, after Brexit had won short months before that, Brexit sort of sneaked through, and then Trump made all of Silicon Valley said, what just happened? And if you've watched, I don't know, the Google town hall the week after the election, where senior executives were literally crying, where they said, we can't let this happen again. That's when the great censorship began, the great demonetization of conservative sites and this extreme censorship. They say they're against disinformation and foreign meddling. That's a cover for the fact that they are the ones disinforming and meddling. I mean, let me say the obvious. Facebook, which is a company based in California, is censoring Canadian political commentary, Canadian books. They're meddling in our national discussions. And when you have 2 billion of the world's 7 billion people on Facebook, you now have a private company owning the public square. It's like a company town. And simply saying, well, if you don't like the way the policeman is being unfair in this company town, will then move to another city. I don't think those libertarian arguments work anymore when the company town becomes a company country. Because
let me raise a different
country. Go ahead.
Let me raise a different problem. I think that's at the core of all of this. No one in their right mind has the expertise. No one in their right mind can or should censor others' content. When we're talking about debates over words, over meanings, over civilizations, we're not talking about a call to action, a call to violence in my book or most books. I mean, you're talking about legitimate debates, never mind anybody's opinion of them as legitimate or not. So Facebook's problem is a problem with modern progressivism, is that it's actually not liberal. And by that, I mean they should go back and read John Stuart Mill, in addition to reading The Victim Call. They should go back and read John Stuart Mill on liberty, because no one can be an expert in everything. You can't possibly parse policy or idea debates if you're a 21-year-old kid sitting in Silicon Valley as an editor, or wherever you've been assigned by Facebook to edit from. You can't possibly negotiate these debates between billions of people, many of whom are just as smart or smarter than you if you're sitting at Facebook trying to figure out what's legitimate content or not. So the best thing to do is to go back and read John Stuart Mill and actually figure out that, listen, if you actually want to get the best ideas out there, if you actually want good societies, civilized societies, what you need to do is to let people debate ideas. Some of them are going to be wrong, some of them are going to be wacky, but the best thing to do is to get them out there in the public square. Mm-hmm. The moment you start, even as a company, censoring others, and you're right, there's 2 billion people that belong to Facebook. The moment you as Facebook begin censoring, not like radical calls to violence, but I mean idea debates, whether it's me or Jordan Peterson or someone else, the moment you do that, you actually do a disservice, because then you're going to get people go underground with some wacky ideas, and there's lots of people out there that have those, and they're going to go underground, and then you're going to get smacked one day with an election or a result or an event that you don't like. The best way to combat pernicious ideas, and there are lots of them, and I combat some of them in The Victim Call, is to actually let these debates go on. Again, I'm not talking about, allowing people to post videos, inciting people to violence or terrorism. We're talking about simple idea debates. Yeah. Why are some Aboriginals in Canada poor? Why do some succeed? Why have East Asians in the United States and Canada succeeded despite past discrimination in both countries? Those are good things to think about. But apparently Facebook is run by, content editors that don't get the value of actually having good liberal debates.
Yeah. Well, you're making the moral points, and you're talking about the long-term cultural benefits of a free-ranging debate. Those things you talk about, like incitement to violence, they already exist as crimes, no matter where they happen, online, in real life. So we already have laws to cover that. I've been focused on this censorship issue pretty solidly for 2 years. I mean, some could say a dozen years. Mark, there's something in the States called the Communications Decency Act, and Section 230 of it grants immunity to companies like Facebook, Google, if they're simply a neutral platform, sort of like a bulletin board in the public square that anyone can tack their message on. If someone puts a illegal message on a bulletin board, you don't sue the bulletin board company that someone tacked something onto if they're neutral. Right? It would be like suing a payphone if someone made a death threat on the payphone. Well, the payphone company's not listening to every call. They're a neutral platform. But when these companies start changing from neutral platforms where everyone is allowed to talk other than, pure obscenity, threats, et cetera, the things covered by the Communications Decency Act, when they start censoring and editing, in my mind, they should lose their immunity under Section 230. And if they want to truly be editors of the entire world, let them be legally liable for editing the entire world. And I don't think they want that. And I don't know if you've looked that deeply into censorship on these platforms, but I am far more afraid, Mark, of anonymous censors who don't even give you the courtesy of talking to you and giving you their name. At least when I went before the Human Rights Commissions a dozen years ago, they gave me some paperwork. I knew who the complainant was. I had a chance to say my piece. I saw who my prosecutor was. I still hated it. But this is far worse. Anonymous, cold, done. You don't even know what happened. And it's just, there's no appeal.
Well, and the appeals, again, seem to be lost in some algorithmic, maze of bureaucratic, private messages that are copied and pasted, perhaps. So look, I mean, you're the expert in the legal issues here and vis-a-vis the states and Canada. I mean, I'm loath to tell a private corporation what it wants to do. But I mean, look, maybe an analogous example is going back to the 1980s, where AT&T in the United States had to be broken up precisely because it had such a natural monopoly of a position. I don't claim to be an expert in natural monopolies in the public square these days. I do wonder if there is a problem, though, with a corporation that has 2 billion people, run by people out of Silicon Valley, God bless them, but that don't seem to understand they cannot be experts in everything. They cannot adjudicate between debates in the public square, so they shouldn't try.
Yeah. Well, listen, when I saw that this happened to you, I was most alarmed because I'm used to this happening to people like Tommy Robinson and myself and our company here at The Rebel. But I regard you as one standard deviation more calm, one standard deviation more philosophical, even professorial than us. So if they're coming from Mark Milke, and this is a form of a compliment, by the way.
I know.
If they're coming for you, the dam has been broken. I think that we are not quite the first line, but we're the first line of defense. If they're coming from Mark Milke, we're already at the second, third ditch already. It's time for everyone to do something. And the crazy thing is, there's nothing you can do other than maybe bust up the cartels as Teddy Roosevelt did 100 years ago. Mark, it's good to have you on the show. Let's at least do something positive out of this. What's the website? I guess Amazon.ca is a good place.
Amazon.ca, local bookstores, markmilke.com. You can find the book all across the internet and in your local bookstores.
Thank you, Ezra. And people go to Amazon.ca, and the reason for that is that helps your bestseller rankings. So folks, if you type in The Victim Cult, it'll pop up there. I know because I've done it myself. You can add Mark Milke, and you find it very quickly. May I encourage you to defy the censors. It's an excellent book, by the way. Buy it for the book itself, but buy it to defy Facebook's censored. Do that at Amazon.ca so at least Mark gets the bestseller rankings. Last word to you, Mark. Do you think this was actually just a glitch in the algorithm, or do you think this is what we're going to see a lot more of going ahead?
I think who designed the algorithm is the problem, and Facebook needs to seriously consider about backing off from attempts to downgrade views they think they might even disagree with. I mean, how can you criticize a book? How can you ban a book without even having read it? I think the core problem is just the thinking perhaps in Silicon Valley these days. But I think you're absolutely right. Look, I've seen you fight back against this nonsense. And I think that one of the things I recommend in the victim cult is if you think you've been unfairly treated, don't think like a victim, fight back. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I'm so glad to have you on the show. Thanks for your time. I wish you good luck. And keep us posted. If they do change course, let us know. If they do let you back on, let us know. But as you saw at the top of the clip with that Danish Facebook executive saying, no, we have secret blacklists. I mean, it's right out of the book 1984, secret blacklists. I feel we're in for darker days. Mark Milke, great to see you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Ezra.
That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant Show, which is a show I do every day. I do a monologue, interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. But you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at premium.rebelnews.com.